Hello. So today we're going to talk about long-term production in the long run. In my last videos, we discussed production in the short run. The difference between short run and long run, we try to understand, as well as we see that how the producers maximize their profit in the long run. So let's start with the sharing of So producers in the long run, how they make decisions in the long run. So in this part, we focus only that what combinations of input that going to be give the producer maximum profit. You know that the producers are always looking for maximizing their profit. Now, how they can maximize the profit? One way is to increase the revenue, that increase the sales, but that's not the topic of today. The other way is to reduce the cost. By reduction of cost, the profit will increase. So this is the way that we emphasize the good business mind, not only emphasize on increasing the revenue, they're also looking towards the reduction in the cost. So what's the difference between long run and short run? So short run is in which at least one factor of production, which can be a land, which can be a plant size, is fixed. Like for a farmer, land is fixed. For a manufacturer, plant size is fixed for a short period of time. You cannot change the land or a plant size in a short run. But in the long run, all variables are changed. Like farmers can buy a new land or lease a new land, or the manufacturer can install a new plant with a larger capacity. So this is why we can say that in economics, long run is a period in which all the factors of production can be variable or can be changed. So now when we produce different products like agriculture product or manufacturing product or any service as well, we need inputs or we need factors of production to produce goods or services. Now, we use the word technical efficiency or technical efficient is a combination of all the factors of production that gives the maximum output or with the minimum number of inputs. So when we are just looking at output and input, not the price, not the cost of that inputs, just looking at how we can use those inputs to produce maximum output, that method, which is a combination of different inputs to produce output, maximum output, is called technically efficient method. And definitely every producer is trying to use the technically efficient method of production. So when a number of inputs are combined in such a way as to maximize the level of output, this is what we can. So profit maximizing choice, the first is we have to adopt a technically efficient way of production. The second is that's not enough, because it is also possible that technically efficient way of doing some business is expensive, is cost is very high. So that's not the only criteria we have to apply in order to find out cost minimization. The other criteria is that the firm chooses among the many technically efficient options the option which has the lowest cost, Now, the students can ask this point, what is meant by technically efficient? So it means that we can use all robotics to produce a car. We can use a combination of robotics and the labor, or we can produce through labor cars. So these are three different methods. Now, technically efficient one is the one in which we use less capital, which is the cost of robotics, as well as the less labor to produce more cars. That's a technically efficient method, which can be only robotics, which can be only a combination of robotics and labor. But the cost minimization is that in which the cost of, when we calculate the cost of robotics, as well as the labor, and see that which one is the cheapest way of producing the same car. We are assuming that the quality and of the product is not compromised. That is one of the basic assumptions. So this is way that we have to talk about technically efficient, where the inputs, minimum inputs, maximum output, and the economic efficiency or economically efficient is the way that the technically efficient method which costs the lowest, that's the way that we can use the profit maximization combination. So cost minimization is an implication of a profit maximization. I just explained you that how we can maximize the profit. One is the increase the revenue, and the other one is the cost minimization. So it is now what we are assuming here also that these factors of production like labor and capital are substitutable. Up till some extent, these are substitutables. Like we can hire more labor to avoid to buy machines, or we buy machines in order to avoid some labors. Like nowadays, if you go to restaurants or go to the airport, or if you go to the banks, you see a lot of machines we are using instead of tellers. What the machines are doing, they are serving the customers. The objective is not to make it fancy or to people attract. The objective is cost minimization. So that's the way that we can substitute one input with another. So these machines are replacing the labor. Now, up till what level we have to replace this one input with the other input? That is the important question. That is the cost minimization. So profit maximization or cost minimization, we use this identity, which we call it that where the profit is, where the cost is minimized and the profit is maximized. So what is that combination? And we also discussed the same combination in our utility concepts, like where the consumer is maximizing their utility. So here the cost minimization comes. So what we can do is that if we find out what is the marginal product of one input divided by the price of that input should be equal to the marginal product of another input divided by the price of that input. So if we create this identity or this equation, then this is the point, or this is the combination of these two factors of production that reduces the cost to the minimum. Now, how we can write it mathematically? So we write it here. The marginal product of capital, K represents the capital. So marginal product of the capital divided by the marginal product price of a capital should be equal to marginal product of labor divided by the price of labor. Now we are considering here or assuming there are two factors of production. One is capital, which is in shape of machines or all these things. And the other one is a labor. That's a human resource we are using. Now we can rearrange this, and we can also figure it out that MPK over MPL is equal to PK over PL. So PK over PL is the price ratio of these two factors of production. So the ratio of marginal product of each factor to its price is not equal to all the factors. These are possible for factor substitution. So if this ratio is not equal, then we can substitute it in order to get it a point where it is equal and the cost is minimum. So we here see that whenever the ratio of the marginal product for each factor to its price is not equal for all factors, there are possibility for factor substitutions that will reduce the cost. And profit maximizing firms react to change in factor prices by changing their method of production. So we see all over the world, like some countries, they are producing goods which are labor intensive. Like the labor is cheap there, so they are producing the things in which the more labor is required. And some countries are producing the goods where the more capital is required, because capital is cheaper in those countries as compared to labor. And we see here, like if you are traveling from here in any airport, we see a lot of machines that serve you to get your boarding passes and also to submit your all these activities which you require to board a plane. On the other hand, if you go to a very country where the population size is very large, so most of the things they are doing there is manual or through the human labor. So that's the difference that we can see where this combination is become more profitable or less cost. So the principle of substitution, this is what we call law of substitution, or the principle of substitution is the principle that method of production will change if relative price of inputs change. with relatively more of the cheaper inputs and relatively less of the more expensive inputs being used. And we can also see this from the historical perspective, like in the beginning of this century or in the last century, most of the jobs done by the humans, because the human labor is not expensive. Now, as the production starts increasing, we face the shortages of labor. So what we do, we start using more capital or more machines. So this is the way that we can explain that the law of substitution or principles of substitution. So let's start the remaining part in the next part of the video.